you very much, Charlotte. Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today. My name's Clara Van Heck. I'm the Head of Digital Transformation Sales for Premier Partner Ancoris. The topic for today's session is how digital transformation is going mainstream and how the events of 2020 have really affected the pace of change and how cloud is absolutely vital to sustain this. We've got a fantastic panel of experts for you today. We've got Alex Hilton, who's the Chief Executive of the Cloud Industry Forum. He's going to be up first, and he's going to be sharing some of the most recent statistics and research on that topic. After this, I'll be introducing Paul Donegan and Wajid, who head up the innovation team, the digital innovation team for Rentokil Initial. Rentokil Initial is an Ancoris and a Google customer, and they're going to be talking through some inspiring and award-winning examples of their transformation journey and vision. What we've done is we've left plenty of time at the end for a Q&A session, so please do get involved. We'd really love to hear your opinions and your questions, so please do think of some comments for us for the end. So handing over to you now, Alex.
Thank you very much, Clara. I'm just going to flick over to some slideware, which hopefully you can all clearly see now. But thank you very much, Clara and the team at Ancoris. It's great to be involved with this session. Very much looking forward to being able to talk to you, but also hopefully have some questions coming through as we go through this. So just to set the scene a little bit, as Clara introduced me, my name is Alex Hilton. I'm the Chief Exec of the Cloud Industry Forum. We are an IT trade body, and as the name implies, kind of do what it says on the tin, really, in terms of we talk about all things cloud. We have been running for 10 years or so. Ancoris are, of course, members, as all forward-thinking organizations are and thought leadership type of organizations are. But the principle around what we do and how we operate is really to work with our membership community, and it's slightly paradoxical in so much as the hand that feeds us, i.e. Ancoris and all the other members out there, pay us a fee to be members, but we fiercely protect a position of absolute vendor agnostic and independence in terms of we're really not pushing one technology or vendor over another. It is an independent perspective. And we go to the market, to many of you maybe as customers and users of technology, to run research programs. Now, clearly we are in, I hate the term, but I'm going to say it, unprecedented times. I think that's been overdone a little bit. We should have some bingo on that perhaps. But the essence around it is, not to trivialize it, very, very significant in terms of where we've come from. One of the key research elements that we've been looking at is digital transformation, and what the impact is, certainly of COVID in the current climate, but really how businesses and organizations will be changing their way forward. So what I want to do now is just really go through a couple of highlights of some of the research that we've conducted, which you will see as follows. And I kind of structured this, or tried to intentionally structure this in two tiers. So firstly, these are, if you like, the positives. And I don't think there's any surprises to anybody in here. I should point out this research was done in a pre-COVID world. It was not a language we were familiar with at the time. We thought Corona was still just a beer. 93% of organizations, though, at that time were using cloud services. No big surprise on that one. It's somewhere integrated into everybody's fabric, be it just at an infrastructure level or even as a software as a service type of level. Organizations are clearly on this journey now in a massive way. More than 3/4, though, believe that actually the cloud itself, or cloud services generally, are simplifying their business challenges. I argue that there is also a level of complexity that is introduced, because it's another layer of complexity just in terms of general IT that needs to be integrated. The longer term outcome hopefully will be one of vast simplification. This is interesting. 26% of businesses are on the journey to serverless infrastructure. Now, I've intentionally structured it that way because actually I think the number is only 2% who have achieved that so far. So the desire for most organizations is that they will become fully serverless as far as the infrastructure is concerned. And interestingly now, for the first time ever, we have seen infrastructure spend, which we know is the highest spend generally in most organizations. Infrastructure spend has become prevalent in a cloud-based environment. In other words, people are spending more money on cloud infrastructure than they are on on-premise infrastructure, and that's the first time we've seen that happen. This next statistic makes me chuckle a little bit, because 2/3 of organizations believe they are ahead of their competitors. We can't all be ahead of our competitors if you do the maths around that one. Quite a tricky one, but that's a positive step. And I think when Paul comes to this point, he'll reference some of these as well. So just an interesting perspective. 75% of organizations believe they deliver their projects on time and on budget. I'm a little skeptical on that one. I've been in the IT industry long enough to know that that may not necessarily always be the case, but this is research, so it may not always get presented in any kind of pessimistic light from that perspective. And actually, the final point here is the enabler of cloud has meant that more organizations are able to run larger scale projects. So projects are growing in size. Not sure that's always necessarily the right thing. I think an effective digital transformation program is arguably better starting in a small piecemeal, sort of bite-sized, more manageable type of way to ensure that you've got the right skills and the program is running effectively. Now, the other side of this coin, those are broadly positive things, okay? The other side of this coin, though, is as follows. And this is my point about being very, very agnostic in terms of the approach we take. So although as the chief exec of a cloud-based trade body, you would expect me to say nothing but positive things about cloud and certainly digital transformation, that's not actually always the case. So it's important to be balanced around this, and that's the approach we try to take. 90% of organizations have experienced some migration challenges. And what I mean by that is organizations have found it to be more complex, more expensive. They don't have the skills in place. It's been pretty heavy lifting in order to do it. For the 10 years we've been conducting this research, security has been the number one inhibitor, bar none, to preventing people making changes or leaps as far as cloud adoption is concerned. And that is still the case. 62% are concerned. It's more so around data privacy now. That gets into obviously cyber concerns specifically as well. But it's definitely still a problem. And certainly now in our COVID or post-COVID world, trust and confidence of those systems is paramount as we make those moves. I had a conversation yesterday with some financial institutions, and trust is absolutely paramount. Above everything, it is the number one thing that they are looking for in terms of their suppliers and the confidence in the technology they're using. Legacy is an interesting one in so much as I think there's two sides to this coin. Legacy is both can be an opportunity, but also a hindrance to a degree. So the opportunity there is if your existing estate, your data center, your hardware is depreciated, the capex has been fully appreciated on that, and it's now maybe at a point where it's time to make that move, and that becomes an opportunity. The other side is, and I work with organizations who are still using mainframes. IBM still sell a lot of mainframes. So legacy in itself, actually, if it's working, you don't always necessarily need to fix it just because the vendors are telling you they should by moving to cloud. So you've got to do what's right for you, and every business is different in that regard. I'll skip through a couple of these here now, but I think the last point I wanted to reference on here, purely in the interest of time, is that only 17%, I find this statistic quite shocking, only 17% of organizations are confident that their leadership can transform the business. Now we're going to hear from somebody in the guise of Paul, because I've already spoken to him, who's very much the exception to that rule, but there is clearly concern out there in terms of the skills that exist in the marketplace. So when we talk about the business drivers, and I've only got 3 or 4 slides here, when we talk about the business drivers of cloud adoption, I'm not going to go through all of these. They're all pretty straightforward things that you would expect to see. Why are organizations moving to cloud? They want to be more agile, more flexibility. I talk about the ilities: flexibility, scalability, and agility. Those are the 3 main drivers that any organization would be looking for to utilize cloud services. And it's not just cloud. What are you looking for as far as your technology is concerned? And certainly in these extraordinary times we found ourselves in, cloud services, we believe, absolutely will be accelerating. And the next piece of research that we'll do, probably after this summer period, will be clearly to look at what the impact has been of COVID on cloud adoption and digital transformation. Digital transformation for me is a bit of an interesting topic. It's a point that has been made for many years. We've been talking about for the last 5 or 6 years. It's now actually started to become real, because I think, with due respect, the marketeers have got hold of it and some of the hyperscale providers, and it's been lip service to a degree. I think it's now becoming quite real and people really get it. And COVID arguably is becoming the driver or the catalyst around this, as organizations need to change. When we talk about the cloud provider community, we go and we talk to our businesses through the research, and we go, well, what are you really looking for from your cloud provider? And I think this stacks up. I actually don't think this has been any different over the last 20 or 30 years, certainly that I've been in the technology industry. Those are the types of things you will always be looking for within organizations. However, the lack of people skills, and I don't just mean technicians, I mean actual strategists and people who are able to really come up with a vision and a statement that will be bought into at a board level, can be a challenge. Now, what we've also found is that 90% of the senior technologists, what I mean by that is a CTO, CIO, even chief digital officer nowadays, becoming a common language, are now reporting in at a board level, and that is absolutely vital. In order to get the buy-in of the organization and really utilize technology for the sake of the business, driving those abilities that I talked about earlier, it's got to be, the technology function has got to be at a board level, where you have a voice within the organization. And that's happening now, which is good. So as we move forward, where are the current workloads that we see within businesses? And I'm just simply dividing these up into the 3 pots of on-premise, public, and private. And I know you can kind of argue the point over public and private as to where one becomes the other, and so on and so forth. But you can see the essence around this. Bearing in mind, this was, as I said, research that was done earlier this year in a pre-COVID world, sort of February time. Looking at this, you can see, the on-premise still is the bigger of the 3 individuals in there. So very much, a hybrid world that we're working in. And as I made the point right at the start, 40% with IT budget, which is still the biggest piece in terms of one particular piece of pie, is still spent managing infrastructure. But again, I made the point earlier that that's now becoming predominantly cloud-based, which is amazing. And that's the first time we started to see that happen. We talked a little bit about serverless. I think that's an interesting one on the journey that people are on. Do people ever really want to get to that point where they are completely server free, infrastructure free in terms of physical infrastructure on site? Again, I think there is probably validity in that one, and I think that's an organization or decision, depending upon the nature of the business you are and whether you have regulatory issues and other challenges around that one. My final slide really was just to trying to provoke thought and discussion. We're all in the software business, as I describe here. Whatever your business may be, whether you describe yourselves as a reseller of software, of technology, or you are an enterprise business with developers in-house, we're all in the software business. When you hear from Paul and Wajid shortly, you will hear they are doing their own work. Software is fundamental to ensuring their success as a business. Many organizations are on this digital transformation journey, but many digital transformations have failed. And there is a lot of research that backs that up. There was one I saw from PwC saying I think some 70% of digital transformation projects have failed over time. So it's important that you have the backing, the buy-in, the stakeholder support in order to make this work. The software skills, we know, I think this has been talked about for a long time. Software skills, or the skills generally within organizations, are changing. I think my final point though really is, if you're an IT professional, it's not just about the technology anymore. You have to be this broker in the business. You have to be able to iterate within your organization at a senior board level, if you are a senior person, to your organization, to your board, to say, this is what we want this to do. It's not just about the technology for the sake of technology. It's about the business benefits we hope and really truly believe that will bring. So my final comment to you, or question to you, is how has the current situation changed or reinforced your cloud strategy? And that, I think, is the thing that would be really good to hear people's views and comments on. So it's not just about me or anybody else giving views. It is really more about you just understanding and being able to communicate that as well. I do welcome any questions, whether you want to do those now or later on. I think probably later on is the appropriate time. But meantime, I will hand back to Clara.
Thank you very much, Alex. Okay, can everyone see the screen okay?
Yep.
Great. So a little bit about Ancoris. We're a premier Google partner, and we've been working with Google since 2008. So we're one of the first UK premier partners. And what that means is we have a huge amount of experience helping our 500 plus UK customers on their cloud journey and helping those customers get the very best and the very most out of Google's technology. We're viewed by Google as a transformation partner, helping customers really to accelerate that journey across these three main areas. So the far left-hand side is the digital workplace. So Google's collaboration tools for the workplace, G Suite. So Lush, Unipart, and Condé Nast are just three of those customers, three of those brands. And on the far right-hand side, we have a very strong data practice. So delivering actionable insights to our customers with the power of BigQuery. Again, I've just put three key logos there, The Works, The Guardian, and Causeway. And the middle pillar is what we're going to be talking about today. So business transformation. So helping businesses solve problems, reimagine and transform specific, often problematic processes to deliver that simplicity, that productivity and value using the power of Google. So we've got those three logos there. So Rentokil Initial, we've got the team here today to talk about that in a bit more detail. We're also very proud to have Google as actually one of our customers. We actually wrote and run the Google exam platform as a software as a service for them, and also SimLab as well. So my final slide, just to talk about one of our key values as a business is to be boldly innovative and help our customers get the very best out of Google technology to deliver that competitive advantage. And we're really, really proud to have been recognized a lot in the industry and have won so many awards. And I've put just the most recent ones up here. And the first two lines are predominantly awards that we've won with the Rentokil Initial team for the floor plan app. We went last year to the UK IT Awards, which is fondly known as the Oscars of the IT Awards. And we attended that hand in hand with our customer Rentokil. And, it was an absolutely fantastic event. And as you can see, Services Company of the Year, Specialist Vendor of the Year, Mobile Technology of the Year, Digital Transformation Project of the Year. So, we really were very proud and we did fantastically well. So on that note, handing over to Paul and Wajid.
Thank you, Clara. I'm going to try and share my slides. So if you can come out, then I'll have a go at doing mine.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's got to be the most asked question in lockdown. Can you see my slides? So I'm going to ask again. Can you see my slides? Yes. Excellent. Good. Digital transformation is a really interesting phrase. I've been in Rentokil a long time. I have a job title with digital in it, and I'm on a mission to score out the word digital as much as I can. Because it's transformation, and it's good to hear Alex. It's always dangerous letting something like Alex go before you, because if your slides are not aligned with his very clear articulated strategy with facts and figures, you can really drop yourself in it. But the good news is that we're very much aligned in our thinking. This world of agility and really moving forward with the business, rather than saying it's all about digital, it's not. It's all about staying ahead of the competition and creating great solutions for colleagues and customers. And I think that balance between the two is becoming more and more apparent. So, Wajid and I are here to just give you a bit of a run through of the story. I hope you know who we are. I really do. We've got a pretty strong brand, but we are probably a bit more diverse and a bit wider than people imagine. Predominantly known for pest control, so the Rentokil brand that stands alone, that a lot of people talk about, and most people understand that, think of it as a consumer brand, but it's actually a business to business brand in the main in most of the world, and it's sort of behind the scenes. Do you want one of our vans in front of your house? Do you want one of our vans inside and outside of your building? And it's the services that sort of got unspoken in pest control. Hygiene is a really interesting business to be in right now, and we talked about the world changing incredibly fast. So washrooms and services around hygiene services are clearly in demand right now, and that's a huge growth opportunity for us. We posted our half-year results this morning, and our hygiene operation has grown 16% in Q2, so it's certainly an area that's in demand. Workwear's garment rental. We have huge businesses in Europe around the sort of laundry services around uniforms. So that's another area of our business. And a final area that you might see our output, but probably don't know the brand, is a brand called Ambius that does a lot of office and retail, let's call them interior landscaping type products. So we operate in around 70 countries around the world, pretty much got everywhere covered geography wise. And we have around 43,000 people in the company, and the vast majority of them are mobile in the field. As you can see with the pictures, a lot of our staff are on the road visiting customer sites. Which is why digital is really key here. How do we keep in contact with our people on the road? How do we keep them up to date? And how do we remove paper, if you like, moving around in a very efficient way? So the phrase that we've been using, back to the marketeers have got hold of it, digitally remastering the front line. They've still got to do the services, and how can digital help them be more effective and more efficient? And equipping them all with mobile technology to move that forward. Another tick on Alex's list was sponsorship from the top. We've had absolutely fantastic sponsorship from our board and from our chief exec, Andy, who's really supportive of all of this. But he's also very grounded in this, which is how does it add value to colleagues and customers, rather than just do it because it's the cool thing to do. We have to be seen to be doing digital. It really is grounded in making a difference. So that's a little bit about who we are. I couldn't resist chucking a couple of slides into, oh my God, the world's changed. If this was going on in normal territory, we'd probably be all suited up on a stage talking to you somewhere. But of course, it's completely changed. And one of the first things about digital transformation is how to adapt. So the majority of guys are in the field, but the people that work in offices are now not working in offices, and how quickly can you adapt and change is a big part of our success. We were using a lot of these tools before and actually transitioned our office-based staff really quickly to work remotely with very little impact in so many ways. So we were being pretty lucky, or we were 2 steps ahead in our thinking, which has helped people carry on working from home where they can. The other one that's just worth chucking in as just a thought is that it's never plain sailing, and you can't plan too far ahead. And this agility element and this ability to pivot and having technology that enables you to do that is critical as part of digital transformation. You can't lay a 10-year plan out anymore. You can't even lay a 3-year plan out. And who'd be brave enough to lay an 18-month plan out? You've got to lay a vision, but you've got to be able to pivot within that. And I think that starts to lay out the framework that we set down 3 or 4 years ago, which is this every good digital transformation plan has to have some hexagons. So we have some hexagons in our plan, and the 2 we're going to pick on today is connected pest control, our IoT platform, and mobile for our transforming our frontline colleagues. But there's so much more than this, and I often talk about some of the Gartner constructs of people, process, technology, and data being at the core of what you have to think about. And if anyone focuses just on technology, you'll probably get it wrong. So bringing digital principles and agile principles to life was really quite important. Constructs of automating what's possible and get rid of all of the inefficiencies is really, really quite important. Having an API culture where you're saying, look, connectivity is going to be important. How do we share data around was another key building block. The agile approach has been quite an interesting one to introduce to the business teams. Of it won't have everything you want on day one. Are you prepared to take it? And that's been a real sort of culture transformation that we've had to get. I want it to be perfect for launch, or it won't be perfect for launch if you want it quick. And then let's build on that. Is it speed? Is it agility? What we've often found on the journey is what we originally intended in that plan isn't what came out of it 18 months down the line. So as you start getting into this, knowing that you are comfortable with not knowing what the end looks like, you get this freedom to move, and building that is one of the biggest things you have to do. The culture change in that is really, really quite important. So we want to talk a little bit about our mobile and connect element. Like I said, we're in a company with a significant amount of people visiting customer sites, and they're visiting customer sites in a very traditional way. And how do we look at transforming the real business problems using digital technology? We're going to focus on pest control for this, and if you look at what we have here, let me give you a 101 of pest control. You have a building in the left at the bottom here with a number of pest control devices in a customer site. That could range from 3 in this picture to 1,000 on a big customer site. There could be a food factory or a pharmaceutical factory that could be a kilometre in perimeter. I mean, it's huge. We have to scan and record everything we do at every one of these locations for audit purposes for many customers. So we've been on a digital journey for a very long time. And if you think about what's going on, we've 50 million scans a year across the world. This is every minute of every day there's beeping going on around scanning these devices in the front field. Then, of course, then that data needs to go somewhere, it needs to get stored, and you need to interact with the customer site. I talk a lot about that digital twin concept that you hear a lot in the press. This is a digital twin. It's the virtual version of the customer site, and then we record everything as we go through on that journey. So what's it look like? Well, look, you use the word legacy. We quite often use the word heritage, not to offend anyone, rather than legacy, because that can get a bit offensive. These are things that are pillars of our company for a very long time. Those big Motorola devices, you can throw them, drop them, kick them, and they're pretty much really rugged. But they cost £1,000 a go. They're not cheap, and they are quite clunky in the modern world, when people are used to using smartphones in their personal life, and then they have to use one of these in their work life. It's a backward step. The thing we were trying to get rid of here was on-site paper, on-site efficiencies, and then off-site efficiencies. An administrator creating a lot of this work to give you that digital experience of what's going on the site. There's a lot of beneath the waterline work that has to go on. It took us up to 3 days from the point of starting to the point of having a customer site set up for the first time, which is a very long timeline when you think about and reimagine this world of working, where I could get it right first time when I'm on site, what would that bring in terms of efficiency and its way? And that's the work we've been doing with Ancoris a bit, plus many other partners here around the piece to say, how would we reimagine this? So part of our development here was trying to see capability of the front line. Could someone use a tablet to draw a floor plan, or is it that's not really going to happen? You're going to have to really train people. Could they use a mobile phone to build a floor plan? Is that the right form factor? Is that the right type? So we're really exploring lots of different things here, and engaging the front line is really key here. That partnership between the technologists, again, Alex mentioned, and the business guys, and how do you make something better for them? Now you've got a generation from a 21-year-old technician who's just going, oh, this is a great watch, I can, within 3 seconds have picked it up, to somebody that's maybe, really not into technology, not comfortable using this, much prefer the clipboard and pen. So that transformation is quite a big part of this. You won't get it right for everybody. But if you start going after this £1,000 PDA to a smartphone, we saved a lot just on the kit. That's the first thing. We had insurance policies on a £1,000 device, renewal programs, to a commodity device. We had two before. They had a phone and a PDA. So you start building up all of these business cases just on hardware. Then you get the efficiencies of more real-time interaction, and then you start reimagining could we now link this into technology to guide a technician around a customer site, to inform them through the phone what's core to mouse, what needs a battery replacing, what's stopped working. If you can see that when you're on site, you open your phone and you can look at your phone, it tells you everything about the site. And maybe you don't even need to go to the site. Maybe you could do that remotely. And that's where you start getting into automation and start to think about the admin efficiencies. So a lot of work has gone on here. Again, technology is only one part of this story, but hopefully you can see here the people and our frontline colleagues were key to this, and trying it. There's a lot of workshops, a lot of let's try it in a small pilot and learn and fail in the mix. And sort of takes us to the sort of last piece of this story, which is then, well, what comes next? And you say, what's changed during COVID? Really, we were on this journey anyway. The idea of sending somebody to a site to open a box where there's nothing in it, you play everything from, is that environmentally smart? Is that efficiency smart? Is that, so how do you reimagine what we do? This is a very simple high-level version of what goes on in the world. We've got these systems monitoring 24/7, connected through to our back office. Once something is detected, we then get alerted. We can then inform the technician through their phone and their work order, their priority list, to then visit the site, and then we can direct them directly to the trap that might have a pest in, and they can solve the problem, look around the site for any other signs, and be a lot more responsive and react quicker. So I think, again, the marketing phrase here is getting one step ahead of pests. If you had a routine type of visit, you went every month, every 2 weeks, once a week, it's a week before you find out if there's a problem. Now you find out within microseconds of a trap going off. We've got that in our system, we know about it. And that really starts to give us a new proposition to many of our customers that is really interesting. It connects colleagues and customers together quickly, because again, if you're in those businesses, you need to react quicker. So the colleagues can get ahead of it. If they are ahead of it, they can start to put prevention in quicker, which of course means the problem will not grow. If it's had a week, 2 weeks, or a month, depending on the contract, some of these problems might have been growing for a month before we're aware of it. So that's real. It's digital value rather than doing it because it's the thing that everyone's doing. The data-driven side of this, we major on the data that comes out of the back of this, and we play Cluedo quite a bit hopefully you'll know the Cluedo game with Colonel Mustard with the candlestick in the kitchen. You can play this game through on a site that says, we actually know it was this trap at 2 a.m. in this part of the customer site. And if you start saying that over and over again, if it's the same trap that goes off at 2 a.m., then we want to know what was going on in that environment at 1:59. And we would never have known that without this real-time data analytics. So we're starting to become more data-driven and have more insights to discuss with our customers to help them solve the environment problems that exist there as well. So this whole journey is really joined up from, it's not just technology for technology's sake, it's a real value to the customer, it's a real value to us, and it helps everyone transform. So where we got to, an interesting story during this year, we've been growing rather rapidly, even during a lockdown. A lot of our customer sites have been closed, but still have to provide services to prevent pests. And then other parts of our customer sectors have been as busy as ever. So the common thread through all of this is, do people need to be on the site to do pest control? The answer is yes. But how do we direct them there such that they're not there unnecessarily? And what we've done in the last 6 months to the half year, we've grown significantly new revenue using connected technology, which is great for everyone. We've added almost 40,000 new devices into the field, and we've done some real fantastic, if you go looking in the press, you'll find it, but I'm going to talk about it, a huge contract with a supermarket in the UK and connected over 1,600 stores of theirs in lockdown, which is, again, fantastic achievement from the front line and from the technology teams. So summary, try and summarize just a little bit like Alex's point here. Hopefully it aligns perfectly. Much more than technology. If you've got something that's better than they had before, it helps hugely. If you create a better experience for colleagues and customers, helps hugely. If you can make money, it's definitely a good thing to do, to bring that in if you're talking about digital for sake. If you don't need to go for the perfect solution, because you need to learn on the way here, and this iteratively improve is really quite important. We all believe that in the future everything will be connected. It's just a question of time, and you have to learn on the way. What the technology looks like in the future will be completely different from now, and it's a very traditional old business. You've got to bring everyone with you on the way here, and a lot of this journey has been about engaging with the detractors, the old guard, the people that are not so keen on this, and really bring them with us on the journey. So there's some summary and thoughts from me. Hopefully that has been useful, Clara. I will stop sharing there, and hopefully if there's any questions, I'm here to ask any questions.
Yeah, just while we're waiting for some questions to come through, I think we've got a couple here. So does AI feature in your strategy, Paul and Wajid? It'd be great to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's interesting around this, and this is start small and try and learn, and what do we even mean by that in terms of artificial intelligence? So from chatbots downwards, are we going to have an experience where you can interact virtually, without needing a human? Most definitely exploring that side of things. Can you use AI for understanding patterns in huge volumes of data? Yes. Are we exploring that? Yes. Can you predict pest control? So there is seasonality, definitely. So if you get enough data points and you can look backwards, can you have a more likelihood approach to what's going to happen in the future? Yes. Will it replace the people? No, because it's an environmental challenge. It's a hole in a wall. It's a problem on the site. It's open food. It's people leaving doors open. It's quite complex to solve the problem using technology, but can you use AI to predict that it's more likely to happen in this business location than that one? Definitely, and we've got programs and sort of innovation parts of our roles going on there. The final one is, can you remotely identify, and we're in a next phase of Pest Connect now. Phase 1 was binary. Have we got something? Haven't we got something? Phase 2 is what we call rich media. And in the rich media world, you have sound, vision, and moving pictures. And then can you use AI to work on those? Most definitely, yes. And we're working with lots of people on that at the minute.
And what's next for your transformation?
Well, I think we're in a growth phase. We've got it's growth. It's growth of the platform that we have in place here. You know, what percentage of our customer base is fully connected? We have a working platform that can scale. People use the words like sweat the asset and things like this. We've done the lift and shift work. We've done the replatforming bit. We're now in a deploy and scale program, which is the exciting bit, because once you get your front line using these tools, you get feedback. When you get feedback, you can get better. So we don't, really, we've done the hard bit. We're now in the deployment and scale phase.
And here's an interesting one. You mentioned hygiene. Does IT open up new markets for you on the hygiene front, on the initial side?
Yeah, and again, we got lucky, or we planned ahead. Last year, we made our first acquisition in hygiene, and we bought a company called Rapid Washrooms, who operate in Heathrow and saw Stonehenge on the news last night, Stonehenge Visitor Centre, and places like that. Non-touch, automated, connected washrooms is definitely something that is of interest right now. So we have connected washrooms up and running, and we have the same challenge of people, and the automation of getting our colleagues to customer sites is the same for the two, and there's a lot of shared components across the two to get economies of scale. But particularly in the physical products, connected washrooms is on our radar. Absolutely, from the last 18 months we've been working on that.
And in terms of pivoting around the hygiene area, is there anything that you can talk about to do with that in the new world, the COVID environment?
Well, I think both are very strong businesses. So really, the answer is we need to grow both. We can grow both equally well during COVID. You still need pest control. I'm sure if you're into your Twitter feeds and look at rodent problems, there's an awful lot of social media about the rise of rodents in a COVID world where people aren't potentially looking after their environment. So pest is usually our core. Hygiene is equally strong, and it is growing with the current trend. It's unlikely to change. So we're definitely investing in hygiene.
Brilliant. We've got a question here. How often do you review your delivery roadmaps? As you mentioned, the challenges of planning any more than 18 months ahead. So how do you go about solving that challenge?
Yeah, and later, yeah, Alex a bit on this as well. I think there's a few layers that people confuse. So strategy, vision, roadmap, that you should not be changing your strategy every 10 minutes, no matter. But I think what we've got, if we talk about our delivery train, we're very much using Scrum methodologies and scaled agile methodologies around daily stand-ups, 2 weekly sprints, quarterly PI events. They've been incredible, where we've now got, I think the last one had 90 people virtually on a PI event for the day, with breakout rooms and that, and even taking it into this world, running those events quarterly is key, and not one team can do everything. You need to get everyone on the same page. So that's how we run the cadence of activities. Try not to pivot within that 3 months. Within the 2 weeks, really strong. Within the day, no way. Unless it's a major incident, you don't. So, and then the strategy's longer than that. So we very much adopt those principles. around that, but roadmaps and strategy have not really changed too much, if I'm being honest.
Okay. And is there anything that you would do differently?
Oh yeah, it's always stuff you do differently. That's how you learn, and getting feedback is the key thing here. Every day you learn something new. So I think admitting that you could have done it better and learning is there. One particular thing, I don't know. I think we got a balance pretty well. We've got strong business leaders that are focused on operating, and they don't let us get carried away with creating monuments for technology. So I think we've got the balance about right between the business input and leaders, and the technologists have got a voice, and it's a two-way partnership. So I think it's we change. Learn something every day is the key here, and you'll get it wrong every day. Don't be frightened of that.
And we've got another question coming here. We're the IT team using agile processes ahead of this being introduced to the business. How did you take the business on the journey of delivering something quickly and iterating the product based on that customer feedback?
Yeah, that's still an ongoing battle, Jamie. It's not an easy task. Some people just get it. I think the old world was, let's promise something really big and then keep moving the delivery to the right. I've lived through that. I'm sure we all have. It's just such a big program of work. Then the answer is divide it into smaller chunks. And when you divide it into smaller chunks, I'll deliver you this in 2 weeks. And then you turn up and you deliver it, then you get confidence. If they try and make the thing too big, then inevitably it keeps moving to the right. So keeping the commitment small enough that you both win, we've delivered success, IT teams are happy, business see progress, happy. It's trying to agree what the thing is that you're prepared to go live with. And it started with, well, I need a year's worth of work to go live with something, not interested. It's going to go wrong. It's going to now be 2 years, 3 years. We spent a lot of time saying, so what's the one thing? And even if it is just changing the color of the button is what I always change it from red to blue, right? If that's a success, and let's get it live. Now let's move on. And you have to let them see that we keep turning up and delivering success every 2 weeks. But it is agreeing with you what's that. I don't quite like minimum viable product concept. Just everyone gets the wrong connotation with it, but it's a shared commitment to, if we get this live, you'll be happy that it's better than it was before, and just keep going. And I think it's just, we still have detractors, of course. I want it to be perfect, but we keep saying perfect will take longer, and it's that culture change you have to invest in.
Yeah, and to add to that, certainly from our side, kind of delivering that quickly is really important. And from a process standpoint, working hard within the workshop process with customers such as yourself, Paul, putting together those early prototypes within workshops and including those key stakeholders, users and end customers, and getting that feedback and improving and iterating is a really important part of the process. So that collaboration of having you guys who know the business incredibly well, and also having a fresh view and our expertise has been quite good for that process too. And we've got one here. Do you believe that COVID has changed business attitudes to IT and digital transformation?
Sounds like one for Alex, that does.
I think it was me that asked the question, Paul.
To technology, you know what's really interesting is there's an assumption that it just works. There's an assumption that IT just works, and I think we should use this as an opportunity to describe, what's actually happening. If you rewind, and we've talked quite a lot internally about, imagine if this had happened 10 years ago. Goodness me, what a mess we'd have been. If it had happened 20 years ago, imagine the fact that it's happened now, so much you can carry on doing remotely has been fantastic. The one thing that I've probably said in COVID that we've really succeeded in is our data and business intelligence arm of our strategy, the speed at which people need data to make decisions has gone from monthly and quarterly to hourly and daily. And I think that investment that we've made in data over the last 2 to 3 years has helped our frontline operators understand, everything from which sectors are we still visiting but we can't get in, which sectors are still paying us, which sectors are, all of that access to data in near real time has made huge differences. And I think that there's recognition now that without that investment, you would have been scrambling in the dark for the answers to everything. So yeah, I think I would probably say there is a recognition. We've got great sponsorship, so we're lucky in that sense. There's recognition, there's investment, but there's now adoption of these tools because they're giving you the answers you need quickly. So I think speed is key now. You can't wait for somebody to create a spreadsheet.
Yeah, I mean, I'd completely agree with that, Paul. Just to add to that, if I may, I think our next round of research, as I said earlier, will be looking at exactly this type of thing. And whatever your views or attitudes are on research, it is an indicator, I think, of what the market collectively thinks. I mentioned I was speaking with a finance customer the other day. I won't name them, but it's an investment, financial investment business. And this kind of hit the nail on the head for me, this little story, because it was really all about preparation. None of us knew this was happening. Okay, this COVID world clearly, and it was somewhat by surprise, didn't it? And has had massive impacts. This particular investment business, who I won't name, went through a period of contingency planning. So they did a couple of scenarios. One was massive cyber attack. Denial of service, the DDoS type of stuff. So what happens in the event of? So they had to plan and prepare for that. And then their CEO came back to them and said, "That's all well and good. Well done. You've managed that. You've got remedial plans in place in the event that's happening, but do something else." They went away, and the IT team had a thought and said, "Oh, okay, let's have a flu pandemic." And this was at the end of last year. So they'd done their contingency planning and prep around that one. So now, this is an organization with several hundred users, not thousands, so the scale can vary clearly around this one. But because they'd done that contingency planning and that preparation, that disaster recovery, whatever you want to call it, they were able to actually turn on virtual desktops, in fact, for people working from home in a relative heartbeat. What they found, as an example, was that the price of PCs, because many people didn't have a PC at home, they had iPads. And they had, Xboxes and things like this, but they didn't necessarily have a PC because they had a laptop at work and so on and so on. They suddenly found that the price of PCs, laptops in their particular case, within a week went up from £300 with the low end of the scale to £1,000. So they were lucky they'd bought early, because things like that would have hurt them. So just a story, a bit of an anecdote, true story from a customer that we'd spoken to. So will digital transformation accelerate? I think absolutely think it will, whatever the language may be, whether you like that term or not. The need for a digital implementation or transformative implementation, I completely agree with you, Paul. I actually don't like the digital in there. Of course it's digital. It's a transformative element to your business. It's imperative.
Mm-hmm. And from our perspective, COVID really did force change, as we've all been discussing, and everybody had to adapt. Businesses had to adapt, and some adapted more successfully than others. And we found, certainly with our G Suite customer base, with everyone suddenly having to work from home, those customers that had something like G Suite in place found it very, very seamless. We certainly did, and I think that was feedback from you guys as well. So that's another interesting example of that pivoting. Okay, guys. Well, I think we're at the end now, unless there are any more questions. Thank you very much for joining, everybody. And we'll be sharing the recording and the full research from the Cloud Industry Forum with you. And we'll send you out an email with all that information. If you've got any other questions after this session, if you think of any questions, if you've got any queries for us, please do get in touch. We'd love to hear from you. And yeah, as I said, we'll be in touch over email, so just reply to that. And thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much to Alex, and thank you very much to Paul and Wajid. Brilliant. Cheers, guys.